Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for this live Facebook Q&A regarding e-bikes and e-scooter safety. This Facebook Live is kind of geared towards parents and what they need to know regarding e-bikes and what they need to know before they purchase one for their teenagers. And now, I mean, this is a very hot topic. Definitely needs good, healthy discussions. With me tonight is Paul Mickiewicz. He's a program manager with New Jersey's Bike and Walk Coalition. He is a longtime member of the Bike and Walk Montclair Board of Directors and the current president. Paul's a lifelong cyclist, a year-round bike commuter. He and I have had many conversations over the past few months regarding e-bikes and e-scooters and the potential dangers and risks associated with that. Paul, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
My pleasure. Thanks for having this topic.
Absolutely. So, like I said, we're gearing this towards parents and what they need to know. Keep in mind, anybody watching, they can ask questions in the comments, and we'll do our best to answer those questions. So, Paul, what can you say on this topic? I mean, say if I'm a parent, I'm looking to purchase a bike for my child. What would you tell me?
Well, that's the place to start, is when you are just in the decision-making process of getting a bike, talking about an electric bike.
Mm-hmm.
You have to think about, is your child, I'm assuming teen, ready for an electric bike?
Right.
How competent are they on a regular bike?
Because there's no age restrictions when it comes to this, right?
Well, there are some as you get into some of the higher level classifications,
higher classes.
But for the most part, no. And for all intents and purposes, we're not seeing any limitations there.
Mm-hmm.
So, is your child ready? Are they competent on a bike? Do they have the critical, reasoning skills to be able to process all what's going on?
Correct.
And that is like the first step.
Right.
I've been teaching learn to ride classes for Bike and Walk Montclair for literally 18 years. We've seen thousands of kids come through, and it's different for all ages. It's not like all 5-year-olds or all 6-year-olds or all 10-year-olds are all the same. Everyone's different. Some just pick it up like that. Others, have different, take a longer time to pick it up. So you have to first analyze what is your child's ability, what is their temperament.
Right.
I know another real consideration is their tolerance for risk. In motorcycle training class, that's one of the things they tell you. They say, we all have a tolerance for risk, and you're going to apply that same tolerance to any activity you do.
Correct.
And when it comes to motorcycles or riding a bicycle, or if you're riding an e-bike, a faster e-bike, a modified e-bike is essentially a motorcycle.
Yeah.
You are going to be running greater risks, and the risks are just, the stakes are much higher.
Exactly, and what we're seeing a lot of these days in town, whether for me being on duty or off duty, and a lot of the complaints that we've heard revolve around the operation of these electric devices, and how I don't want to necessarily pick on the kids, but the operation is very risky and dangerous, and because these kids are actually expected to follow motor vehicle traffic laws. And when you're 13 or 12 years old, do you really know these laws? Such as stopping at stop signs, stopping at red lights. Recently, in the past 6 months, I'd say late spring, we City of Summit, I guess, trying to get ahead of this issue, passed an ordinance regarding e-bikes and e-scooters, as well as non-motorized bicycles or devices, prohibiting them from being on sidewalks. They're not allowed to ride on sidewalks anywhere in town, these e-bikes. And they're allowed to ride on the roadway, but like I said, they're supposed to be staying off sidewalks, pedestrian pathways, and they're actually subject to be fined, or bicycles can be confiscated, returned back to them within 24 hours to the owner upon proof of ownership. So yeah, it's but you're seeing this a lot more around surrounding neighborhoods, and even it seems like from everything I'm hearing, it's approaching the state level where they're looking to step in and regulate this.
Well, we're seeing this even being proposed now on the federal level,
Mm-hmm.
and you mentioned the need to have an understanding of traffic law, And these kids many of these riders are not old enough to have gone through formal driver education training yet.
Right.
So where are they picking that up? They're not getting it. So we'll talk about that tonight when we get into the training.
Right.
There's an excellent training tool that we'd recommend for everybody, but they need to have that understanding. And I think what's really bubbling to the surface here is adults that are seeing this kind of activity, see it and see it and recognize it as really reckless behavior.
Yes.
In some cases, I mean, I've seen very responsible teens riding bikes,
yes.
without a doubt. And that's concerning. We don't want to see someone get hurt. We certainly don't want to hit them.
Of course.
And because of this kind of behavior, and we don't want them just to hurt themselves. Most in regular bicycle training, we tell people like most crashes are solo crashes. People go down on their own. So I tell kids who are riding, it's like it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And if you're riding an e-bike, you're probably going to be making a crash at a faster speed.
Right.
You know, any kind of faster speeds are going to, just come with much greater capacity and potential for real injury.
Right, exactly. Now you bring up speed, right? So that's one of the other issues that we hear a lot of is that these bikes are zipping through town. They're going way faster than 20 miles per hour. We talked earlier, you and I have had tons of conversations already about something that parents should be aware of is the potential modification
Right.
of some of these devices. So you purchase a bike, whether it be a class, say 2 bicycle, and it has a speed restriction on it. And what we're seeing now, or from what I understand, they're able to modify these bikes to go faster than that 20 mile per hour.
And so we should probably lay it out. There's a lot of different kind of bikes out there. Some of them, and they get equated as all the same sometimes. But we have electric pedal assist bikes,
Right.
class 1.
Class
We have
1.
pedal assist bikes, class 2, that have a throttle. So you do not have to pedal. You can use a throttle, and that's what we see most of the kids riding.
Right, and they're not even pedaling; they're just throttling.
Right. Class 1 and class 2 bikes have a maximum power assist to 20 miles an hour.
Right.
So by just using the throttle on a flat surface, you're not going to go any faster than 20. However, one of the issues is essentially all e-bikes can be modified with a throttle, can be modified to go much faster than that.
Right.
And kids are figuring it out. There's YouTube videos. There's just a lot
Yeah,
of
how
ways.
are they doing this though? And
Yeah.
that's something. This is a great question that the parents need to be aware of. How would I know as a parent that my child that I just purchased this e-bike for, that they modified or didn't modify the bike to go faster than it was intended to go?
Good question. So there are a number of different ways, and sometimes it's as easy as using an app because it controls, just like apps control a lot of things.
Right. So they can download the app, sign in, create an account, and then from there through that app alter the settings to say, all right, any speed
Off-road
restriction
mode or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly.
So sometimes it's that
It's
easy.
as simple as that.
Right. Sometimes it's a little trickier where you have to understand not a very intuitive sequence of buttons, that you're pushing.
Which they could be seeing on maybe TikTok, YouTube, etc.
Exactly right.
Right.
So
You can see on
they
online
can do
somewhere.
that. Sometimes it's modifying clicking a wire that limits speeds. So it can be varied. And I think what parents need to know is not so much how they're doing it, as much as has the bike been modified.
Right.
And we haven't even gotten to how they're using it. So in terms of seeing how they modify the bike, you also want to just check the bike out and see how sound it is, because going faster isn't the only issue. We were saying this earlier that the bike's brakes, depending on what you're getting, there's a lot of wide variety of quality bikes, and we'll always recommend get a bike at a bike shop as opposed to online.
Right,
because
which is
you just
much
know what
easier
you're
these
getting.
days.
And brakes are a really important piece. And if the brakes are designed for a bike that's maxed at 20,
Right.
but now
And
you
you
go
modify
40
it to go
or
40 miles an
45,
hour.
those brakes are going to wear out, and they may not.
They may fail.
They may fail. Exactly. So there's stress on the infrastructure of the bike itself.
Right. It's not engineered to do that speed.
Correct.
Right. Exactly. So, and once again, as a parent, because we talked about, so how would I know that my kid did that? We talked about either, looking at the back of the bike, checking his, can you speak more about that?
Yeah, you have to be a little careful doing this, but essentially, when you hit the throttle, if you're on the bike's gonna go.
Right.
And if you lift the seat up, or lift the back wheel up, and hit the throttle, the tire will roll, and you can look at the speedometer. Most of them have a speedometer, and you will hold the throttle it up, watch the speedometer go up, and if it continues to go up past 20, and you don't hear that motor cut off,
Right.
that's been modified.
So when it comes to the different classifications of these e-bikes, so there's class 1, class 2, and class 3, and we talked about it before too, but can you just reiterate?
Sure.
Class 1 is pedal assist, go ahead.
Yeah, class 1 is pedal assist only, there is no throttle, and you only get power assist up to 20 miles an hour. If you're going down a hill, you can go faster than that.
Right.
But you're not getting the power assist or the pedal assist. Class 2 is also pedal assist maxed at 20 miles an hour. However, it's got a throttle, so you don't need to be pedaling, and that's a huge difference. Class 3 goes up to 28 miles an hour, but there is no throttle on a pedal assist bike. Now they're also, kind of bringing in mopeds, but I don't know, I've never seen a moped in 40 years probably. So, it's in the classification, it's in the old kind of rules. But essentially what we're seeing are bikes that look like motorcycles. They have a long
dirt bikes,
dirt bikes. And then there are
no
dirt
pedals.
bikes. I mean, so we've been talking about bikes that actually have pedals, electric bikes that have pedals, but many of these class 2 bikes, especially the ones that look like a little motorcycle, the pedals are superfluous. They really aren't functional pedals. They will pedal, but it's a heavy bike. There's there's little to any gearing. It's a super heavy bike, and nobody is going to want to pedal that bike very far without any kind of assistance.
Correct.
So you have to ask yourself, it's like, why am I getting this bike if they're not really going to be using it like a bicycle? I mean, part of the benefit of bicycles, you get some exercise.
Right, and when it comes to these classes, there's supposed to be, I guess, a sticker affixed to the frame of the bike of some sort, right? Class 1, class 2, class 3.
I think we're looking for that. I don't think that is actually, there's a sticker mandate or law for the state of New Jersey. I'll say I'm not exactly sure on that, but that's something that's going to be proposed. But to the point of that is, it's very hard to identify. So parents, when you go to the store, you have tags on the bike. The store salesperson might tell you something. Sometimes, you might get someone who's not quite as reputable, and will say, oh, okay, we can get this bike to go a little faster, or say, oh yeah, it's a class 2 bike, and not indicate that it's easily made, modified to be out of class.
Right.
And the kids are like, oh yeah, don't tell them.
Right, exactly. So, a question from a viewer: how will infractions regulations be enforced by some police department? Well, I can tell you firsthand that we are definitely out there currently, and we have been enforcing this. We have in recent months, since these ordinances have been passed, we have confiscated these some of these electric devices, these e-bikes or e-scooter devices. Once again, when it comes to the ordinance, we confiscate it, we bring it in, essentially kind of impounding it at our headquarters here, and after a 24-hour time period, the owner of the bike, or say the parent, has to come in. They have to show proof of ownership, and then at which point we will release the e-bike back to the parent. And also, there are potential fines that could reach up to $500 right now. But we are definitely out there. We are definitely enforcing. But this issue is becoming so prevalent, and we're seeing so many more of these kids on these e-bikes. I myself personally have seen, like I said, whether on or off duty, I've seen kids riding, 2 people on an e-bike. You'll see, one kid riding it, and then say their friend hops on the back.
Which is also not legal.
No, it's definitely not legal. Exactly. So, which is in violation of these laws. So, no, we are definitely out there in full force.
But you got to admit, it's hard to enforce. I mean,
It's
you
difficult,
don't
yes.
want to chase and get somebody they're trying to get away from you and create a crash.
Yeah, and got to the crash. Exactly. Which
So
is
it's got to be challenging.
No, it truly is. So, and actually, let's see here. Let me just let me talk about helmets. So, I mean, that's the most common thing we hear about too. when it comes to any type of bicycle operation, whether it be an e-bike versus a traditional bicycle, and everybody, that's well known to wear a helmet. My question to you is, I think the parents should know, some of these helmets are not rated for these e-bikes based on the sheer speed. So a regular bicycle helmet on an e-bike that maybe goes 20 plus miles per hour, it might not be sufficient to stop an injury.
Let's just hope they're wearing some kind of helmet. But
that's better.
A regular bicycle helmet is going to have a very thin skin, because they're made to be light, and is going to really tear up much faster. And a e-bike is going to have a harder shell, and so it's going to be rated higher. And then when you get to motorcycles, you see much bigger, beefier helmet, and often will have a chin. Doesn't always, but it has a chin. Especially if they're doing some tricks and things. But it's not a matter of if you go down; it's a matter of when you go down, and then do you hit your head. So it's obviously the most vulnerable part of our body, and you can really be can have catastrophic consequences. And sadly, we've seen some really tragic occurrences.
There have been accidents
in the last couple weeks.
Couple weeks or so, yeah. We've seen some very tragic accidents, and even one is too many.
Yeah.
So Paul, do you know of any brands? Are you aware of certain brands
Of helmets?
of e-bikes?
Yeah, I'd rather stay away from brands, because I can't speak really well on that.
Right.
Other than if you go to a bike shop, you're going to get a better, quality item, as opposed to something that's coming through the mail that you then have to do some installation. Part of my learn to ride was I had a lot of parents that brought in bikes that they had to install because they bought it online, and they were put together wrong. And so that's an important piece. But we talk about the helmets. I also want to stress this before I forget about it. Really important to be seen.
Yes.
So a big factor in safety is being seen. We say be seen, be visible, be predictable, be courteous.
So we'll see kids, especially now, it's getting darker earlier, and maybe kids are wearing dark colored clothing, etc. So they're not able to be seen as easily by drivers on the roadway. So what would you recommend? You said just lighter colored clothing.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you have a bright helmet,
okay.
at least you have that, because that's going to be up high, and it's going to be very prominent, and it's not dependent on what you're wearing for clothing. If you had some simple light, safety vest that you see people, construction workers out there on the roadway, they're wearing those things for a reason, because they're very vulnerable. They're standing out there with their body, and cars are going by.
So I agree, and you know what, I definitely believe, while we are out there definitely enforcing these our ordinances, while as e-bike laws and the operation, I truly feel that a lot of this starts at home. I'm not putting everything on the parents at all, but it's definitely the parents should be aware of conversations should be had how to properly operate these e-bikes, because they have a lot of power, a lot of speed, and a lot of potential risks and dangers associated. So I think good, healthy conversations definitely need to start at home with the parents, and checking out, physically checking out their bikes. Because I just remember me as a kid, if I did this at 13, 14 years old, am I going to go tell my dad right away? Right. Probably not. Right. Probably not. So there's another question from a viewer. Talk about the importance of properly fitting helmets. I think that's, I don't want to say necessarily common sense, but say you don't want a chin strap, right? I mean, can you talk about properly fitting helmets?
Yeah, I mean, the helmet should be snug, not cocked way back on your head.
Right.
And certainly the strap needs to be
chin
up,
strap
because
definitely needs to be.
If you start to have a crash, and you're moving, that helmet's going to come off, and it's going to be pointless.
Right.
So it's important to have it properly fitted, properly worn, and hey, if you want your teen to wear a helmet, put some money into a good helmet that they feel comfortable with. Maybe it's stylish. There's a lot of helmets out there. Get a cool helmet, and if you could convince them to get a bright helmet, or wear a bright helmet, that's a bonus. It's a bonus.
Exactly, and and also we have coming up in the next week or so, we have a couple of bicycle rodeos coming up in town. One at Tadlock Field and one at Oh shoot, what was the other one? Oh, at the pool, I'm sorry, at the Summit Pool. So those are gonna be on the 7th and the 9th respectively. They will be, I guess, Avenues of Motion will be there. They'll be helping these kids properly fit their helmets on. They'll have a little, safety course. You've seen these bike riders playing before. So that's actually coming up in town on the 7th and the 9th.
Well, if we can we go into the training?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
Let's talk
before I
about this.
forget, you're talking about parents.
Well, we talked about that. So
Yeah.
once again, me as a parent, if I want to, let me get my child trained, because we talked about it earlier. Remember before we started this Facebook Live about would you give your child the keys to your car without any type of training, without maybe receiving a permit first, without getting some hours behind the wheel of a car. So, but you're handing this e-bike over that's going 20 plus miles per hour, thinking, oh, it's just a bicycle. It's much more powerful and a lot more dangerous and risky. So when we talk about training, if I want to say maybe, you know what, listen, I'll buy you an e-bike. Because you've been great, you've been a good kid, you got straight A's. I'm going to buy you an e-bike, but I want you to be trained on this first.
Right.
So what can you tell me about that?
Right. Well, there's a great training, and it is called e-bike training for teens.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just go to teenebiketraining.com, teenebiketraining.com, there's a great course. It costs $35. Teenebiketraining.com. It costs $35, but the benefit is that you can look at that training, review it over and over and over, because frankly, there's so much material, it's too much just to go through in one sitting.
Yeah.
There's 21 separate little presentations that you view. There are, I think, 4 quizzes and a final exam.
Right.
So as a parent, I'd say, and you literally get a certificate.
Mm-hmm.
So if you pass the course, you get a certificate, and I'm encouraging bike shops to honor that certificate, with some sort of added,
Right.
Safety check or something like
And
that.
I can speak of this too, because I went through this course, and I have my own certificate, so proud of it. I'm going to hang it up in my office. But so that course was it was great training for me when just going through. I learned a lot, actually, and even as a police officer, I've learned a lot just from going through that training.
Yeah.
So that was actually great, so I can definitely speak of that. Is there a difference between a regular bike helmet and an e-bike helmet, and are there different helmet requirements for the different e-bike classes? Well, we talked about that too. I mean, there are different classes of bikes. Once again, if I'm going to jump on a motorcycle, as an example, or a dirt bike, am I going to wear a bicycle helmet? Of course not, because we're talking about more speed, more power involved, more of an impact if I were to get into an accident or a crash of some sort. So yeah, there are different types of helmets out there that are available. I would highly encourage anybody purchasing, say, a Class 2 e-bike to do your research. I definitely can't speak of any particular brands.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, you have bicycle helmets, and then you have motorcycle helmets.
Right.
And now what we're starting to see are bike helmets that are being marketed towards e-bike users because they're heavier.
Right.
There's even a difference within like mountain bike helmets, because they're shaped a little bit different, a little bit beefier than, say, a road helmet.
Right.
So there are differences there, but I don't believe there's a specific, specific as type of helmet for e-bikes yet. Because it's evolving so quickly, we haven't caught up yet.
Yeah,
There are
because think about
motorcycle helmets.
yeah, when it comes to these e-bikes, so more speed means, I guess, less reaction time, right? And which is longer stopping distance, and the potential for a more severe injury or collision involved. So yeah, I would definitely, as a parent, I would make sure my child has a, I guess, a thicker shell helmet or a more appropriate helmet for that particular device versus like you said, a regular bicycle. Another question from the viewer. What speed limit do you recommend that e-bikes should go? Well, you just speak of the classes.
Yeah. Well, and I have to say, I have a Class 2 e-bike. It's got a throttle.
How fast can that go?
It goes up to 20 miles an hour.
Up to 20 miles per hour.
And honestly, that is plenty fast to get around town. Now, there are roads where, and this is another issue, another problem, but I think we should address it the other way, and that is too many drivers are going too fast on even our local roads.
Right.
So we have local neighborhood roads that people are driving 35, 40 miles an hour, and they're really designed, and they should be 25 miles an hour.
Right.
So we're trying to get the general, travel speeds down in local towns and downtown areas. to 20, 25 miles an hour. So when people do get hit, because they will get hit, there's going to be accidents, there's going to be crashes, but we want them to be survivable.
Right.
And so 20 miles an hour is plenty fast to get to where you're going.
Right.
Again, Class 2 and Class 1 bikes max you at 20 miles an hour. Class 3 will allow you to go 28. The problem is bikes are not staying within those classes. Class 2s are being modified to go much faster, and with that speed comes much greater responsibility.
Right, and one of the other, and as a lifelong cyclist, you can definitely agree on this one, but I just don't, so I am a certified bicycle officer here with the Southern Police Department, and I have been on patrol on a bicycle, and I have ridden through our downtown, which one of my biggest fears as a cyclist are doors, right? The car doors being open and possibly right in it, which I believe there's a rule, like you want to give like about 4 feet of distance between a car when you pass
5
it.
feet.
5 feet.
So
then you'll definitely hear parents saying, well, you know, say for our new ordinance, like, oh, they're supposed to stay off the sidewalks. Well, then I don't want my kid in the middle of the street, which you can understand that, of course. But when it comes to our downtown, we're definitely pushing, like I said, no e-bikes or any bicycle, as a matter of fact, on the sidewalk. But we're trying to push them, say, well, if you must be on the sidewalk, walk your bicycle, don't ride it. You know, walk it, don't ride it.
Yeah,
We're
respect that pedestrian space.
So absolutely, which is very important. Another question from the viewer, are officers going to be trained to spot an e-motorcycle that we can protect our teens? Yes, I mean, since this is, I guess, surging popularity, e-bikes, I mean, how long have e-bikes been around? Would you, no idea?
Yeah, I mean, a long, long time, just not in this form.
They're extremely popular right now. It's surging out from, I read a recent article on NJ.com basically saying that there was over 1.7 million sales of e-bikes in last year alone, 2024. So as far as the training goes, I can definitely speak as an officer of 21 years, our training never stops. We're always training, and I know we have a heavy emphasis here at the Southern Police Department on training, you know, whether that be new officers or even veteran officers like myself. The training does not end. So are our officers being trained in these bikes? Yes, they are. About how to identify these bikes. One of the easy ways to identify with these e-bikes are their pedals. Right? Are their pedals. I've seen just last weekend, I was actually down the shore. I was off duty with my wife, and I guess it just looks like a straight up dirt bike. So I remember pointing to my wife, I'm like, that is not a legal bike. That's not street legal. So, but yeah, so that's a telltale sign right there. So once again, it's something that parents need to be aware of.
Pegs are not pedals. Pegs are, you put your feet on them, but they don't move.
And as far as the pegs goes, like I said, I mean, younger me probably wouldn't agree with this, but I mean, your friends are not supposed to be riding on these pegs. These e-bikes, or they're not meant to have more than one, I guess, person on that bike. So we're actually, I don't know if you've seen this, I don't know if I talked to you about this or not yet, but we have a bunch of these, I'm going to show this to Facebook Live land out there, but we're actually had a bunch of these signs made up. They're going to be posted in the downtown area, just a simple reminder to everybody to that there's no riding on the sidewalks within our central business district. And hopefully that can help with safety.
I'd like to circle back to something you said.
Sure.
That caught my interest, and that is like, where do you ride? And you mentioned, I don't want my kid out in the middle of the road. Well, in a sense, you might, because, and when I say middle of the road, not the middle line, but essentially what we teach, where you should be, is in the lane. If you don't want to be in the door zone, so most areas that we have, if you have a nice big shoulder, even though shoulder is technically not a legal travel lane, it is an optimal place when it's in good condition and wide. The problem is, quite often there are parked cars there, and certainly around town. So when there is not a ample usable shoulder, then we teach riders to be in the lane. And essentially, if you were driving your car and you suddenly had that car disappear, you'd be kind of left side, kind of towards your left side tire tracks of that road. That's where the rider should be. You're much more visible, and this is what we teach motorcycle riders. Like, you need to be visible. You need to have that line of sight. And if the farther you get to the right of the lane,
Which is what I
the
try to do.
less visible you're going to be, the more debris you're going to be subject to, the more likely you're going to have someone wanting to pass you. So the faster you go, the more you need to be out, just like drivers of cars.
Right.
And I will say one positive thing about e-bikes is, in 20 miles an hour, again, 20 miles an hour makes for much less speed differential when you're out there with traffic, other car drivers. And drivers are going to be much less impatient when you're moving along at 20 versus if you're plodding along at 10.
So another question from a viewer, can we talk about the age or what requirements need to be met for their teenager to ride a Class 3? And by the way, recently, actually within the last 24 hours, we posted basically this chart on our Summit Police Facebook page, shared by the City of Summit's Facebook page. Just a little quick reference guide as far as the laws and regulations. As far as the age goes, for Class 1, Class 2, there's no age requirement.
Correct.
Restriction, I should say. For a Class 3, and you and I were talking about this prior to going live, for a Class 3, it actually, since it goes over a certain mile per hour, which is 28, if it's going over 28 miles per hour, basically that has to be registered and insured, and there's a minimum age requirement of 15 for that. Now,
and license.
So, and what that means is, well, my 15-year-old's not going to have a driver's license, right? Well, actually what it means, I spoke to a friend of mine this morning from DMV, and he was telling me that basically just like a regular, say, motorcycle license, this individual has to pass a test. As far as registration goes, my father has to be with me, or a parent needs to be with me in order to register it, but they have to essentially pass a test to be able to ride that Class 3 e-bike. And like I said, minimum age is 15 years of age.
It's a very similar process to like getting your regular driver's license. It's a serious process. Right? It's just signing a paper and getting a license.
So now this is probably geared more towards me, I guess, but a question from a viewer: what are the punishments if a teen is caught operating an e-motorcycle, not an e-bike? Well, that motorcycle will definitely be confiscated and impounded. And so there are definitely restrictions on that. So,
and that e-motorcycle, that question might be geared towards a modified. E-motorcycle is no pedals, correct? Right?
Yeah. Right, exactly. So, that would definitely be confiscated. They would be stopped, confiscated, and fined. It's almost like driving a car at the age of 15, which could affect their ability to get a driver's license.
And I'll ask a question. So I'm assuming that e-motorcycle, they may not be licensed for the e-motorcycle, but the e-motorcycle itself may not be street legal.
True.
Because of some of the other elements of it. So like dirt bikes, you have to have lights and license plate and all
Right.
those other things.
And when it comes to the front light and the rear light, the red light and the white light, I guess that goes for. Yeah, so that it might not be street legal. Yeah. So that's definitely being impounded.
Right.
So are there any other questions possibly? Oh, we got some more coming in.
Yeah, and as we're going along here, so we're kind of identifying the problem. We want to make sure that we get the right bike.
Right.
So parents have to think about what are they getting. I would highly recommend a Class 1 e-bike that has pedal assist.
Pedal assist. Right.
If you're serious about setting your kid up for success and not being tempted by influencers and buddies, because as we get together in groups, I see it all the time, whether it's adults or kids, we get together in groups and our behavior goes down the tubes.
Mm-hmm.
We just are not nearly as responsible, we're not nearly as accountable, and if you want to avoid a temptation, and you could, maybe after a couple of years you get a different bike, but a Class 1 bike without that throttle is really going to make it much less likely that they get into mischief with a Class 1 bike, because you got to pedal to make it go. And the idea of getting training, it just seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Like I said, especially when it comes to like the power behind these bikes and the speed behind these bikes, I would definitely insist on training.
2 questions.
All right, so there's 2 questions. All right, so should Class 1 and Class 2 be insured? No, it's not. The answer to that question and require a license. Now, is that should be? That's not my personal opinion. Currently, at the moment, they are not required to be registered or insured for Class 1 or Class 2. What was that second part of that question there? Should e-bikes be driven against incoming traffic or alongside? The answer to that is alongside. They're supposed to be following motor vehicle traffic laws. And you and I spoke about this also earlier when it comes to teenagers or someone, say, 12 years old. They don't know these traffic laws that when we go through driver's ed or we have a professional license, that they don't understand these laws. So no, they should not be going against the flow of traffic. You're supposed to be riding with the flow of traffic. So there's the answer for that one.
And on that point, I want to just bring a couple little safety tips, because you were asking me about, what are the most dangerous scenarios?
Yes.
One of the dangerous scenarios, well, one, just following traffic law, not because we want to be a good citizen,
right,
but because there are understandable and consistent kind of rules of movement, so we can be predictable with each other.
Yes.
So I can count on what's happening. And when you're riding with traffic, if you're going 20 miles an hour and cars going 30, well, they're going to slowly overtake you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going 20 miles an hour towards a car that's going 30 miles an hour,
mm-hmm.
You are closing that distance much faster.
Right.
And so you
lesser
have
reaction time.
Yeah.
Right.
And a big one is, and this comes with sidewalk riding as well, when motorists are pulling out and they're pulling out onto a street, they're looking to their left. They're making a right-hand turn. They're
right.
looking to their left, and they're not looking to the right.
Yeah, and that happens often.
Not
just with bikes, and I'm sorry to cut
right.
you off, but same goes for pedestrians. They're looking to the left in order to pull out into traffic, and they don't see this bicycle, like you said. So if they're riding against traffic, yeah, there's a potential for a collision right there.
So for riding e-bikes, what we teach with street savvy cycling,
mm-hmm.
you need to be anticipating. There's about half of the crashes are caused by bike error, driver error, and then half of them are motorist error. Mm-hmm. And you can be a defensive rider. So what you want to do is just be very safe and understand your braking distance.
Mm-hmm.
So you were talking about perception. It takes us about a second and a half to perceive there's a problem.
Right.
And again, people's awareness, situational awareness varies. You can go
right.
in 2.5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
That there's a problem. Then you need to then start to react. And all this time you're still traveling. Let's say you're going 20 miles an hour.
Right.
You're going a long distance.
Mm-hmm.
If you count 1001, 1002, 1003, and that's fast reacting,
right.
that you're trying to brake your bike. And depending on your braking skill, how fast you're going to bring that bike to a stop.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about quite a distance.
And when we talk about different violations I've seen, or from an operational standpoint with some of these kids, and actually I've seen, once again, it should not be necessarily just picking on kids, because I've seen this from adult traditional bicycle riders. They're supposed to be following motor vehicle traffic laws. What that means is when there's a stop sign, they should be stopping at a stop sign. When there's a red light, that does not say, oh, well, I'm not a car, I just shoot right through the red light. You're supposed to be stopping at the red light just like every other vehicle on the roadway. And you are subject to getting stopped and being fined for that, just like a regular driver is. So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. So another question is, have any teens had their e-bikes impounded recently? The answer is yes. And does SPD plan to offer any in-person training on e-bikes? Well, I don't, nobody in some police department, myself included, we're not certified to do that type of training. That's why we have people like Paul here, people like his, this company, teenebiketraining.com. So no, we don't have any e-bike specific training involved. Now, I am, however, a big part of my position with some police department has to do with the education of these types of issues that are going on in town, e-bikes and other topics. But so this week, as a matter of fact, on Friday, I'm going to be presenting to the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders in the middle school regarding, I guess, e-bike safety and doing that type of education. Spoke recently with the principal of the high school, which I'll be in the high schools coming up in the next, I guess within the next couple weeks or so, next few weeks, trying to do possible training within the driver's ed program. So that's on the horizon for me. But no, we don't have any certified e-bike experts, I guess, to offer some sort of training. But like I said, there's definitely training that is out there, that is available for like you said, me as a
And
parent.
I'll be
looking at-
doing that kind of, I'll be doing on-the-bike training in the spring.
Right.
We did some in the summer, we're kind of closing down our season here. But
It's
there
getting a
was
little cold. I
also,
don't think anybody's gonna really be.
well, yeah, and
and
that's
think
part
kids
of
are gonna
it.
be on the bikes, you know.
That's part of it. But there will be on-the-bike training,
Yes.
and, you know, based on every kind of street savvy cycling I've done, it's not specifically for riders of e-bikes, but it's the same material, and I add just a few specific things that take into account e-bikes. You know, an e-bike pedal assist, if parents haven't tried them, you know, I definitely recommend go to a bike shop, rent a bike, try it out. It's a lot of fun. It's a game changer, and I should have started with this, that e-bikes are very enabling for a lot of people. And so people that might struggle, and I'll say this for myself, you know, I have a hip that's going downhill real fast, and the e-bike makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And so there are people that are riding, particularly seniors, that are riding e-bikes that otherwise wouldn't be riding bike.
Yes.
Because there's this one hill that's just too much, and so they're very enabling. And there's other electric devices we haven't talked about, scooters, you know.
E-scooters,
same
yeah,
kinds
that
of
goes
things.
along with our ordinance as well. We've like I said, when it comes to the banning of these e-devices, I'll say that, not just e-bikes, there, any e-scooter, e-bikes, they're not allowed on any sidewalk within our city. So another question coming in, are e-bikes allowed in Bryant Park, which, someone actually just wrote that in? Wow, that's great.
Yeah, breaking
so,
news.
Well, breaking news, and you and I discussed this before. Today, ironically, Union County just issued, I guess, an executive order prohibiting the operation of motorized vehicles, including electronic bikes and scooters, in all county parks in Union County. So we have Bryant Park in Union County, within our jurisdiction here in Summit, and there is a walking path. So anybody who is riding, say, an e-bike on that's prohibited, and they will not be allowed to do so. So that was a great question, actually.
So we have the decision-making process. Is your kid ready? Maybe they're ready. You get them a bike, so the decision-making of the bike itself. You go
A lot of
through the
decisions
training.
involved, right?
You know, you go through the training.
So-
The workshop I did, I had one particular e-bike user that the mother was really, the parents were really interested in getting training for their teen because they wanted to ride independently to high school.
Yeah.
And very admirable, objective. Showed up, he had great bike skills, great temperament, and they took this course, they thought it was fantastic.
Right.
And it's perfect. I'd love to see high school students riding themselves to school.
Sure.
And I would suspect he's a very responsible rider. On the day of the workshop, he did a great job in our parking lot session. The problem was when we went out for the road ride, his bike died. His e-bike, there was something wrong with it.
Right.
So unfortunately, when you have these e-bikes, and it was one of those e-bikes that's not really intended to be pedaled, you're not going to go very far.
Yeah.
No one's going to pedal that bike.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't want to say to necessarily summarize it, but I mean, I think parents should definitely do the research prior to just as simple as going on, online and just ordering an e-bike and say, this is my kid wants, because of course they're really surging in popularity, and a lot of kids really want this. For the link for that training, can you speak
Sure.
to that?
Yeah. No. It is simply teenebiketraining.com.
We have it in the comments.
Oh, it's in the comments. Okay,
it's in
great.
the comments. Yeah.
Yeah, teenebiketraining.com. Like I said, I went through this course myself, and I thought it was extremely, there was a lot of great material in there. Like I said, certain things that I didn't know when it comes to, say, the brakes and the hydraulics involved and such. And it talks about the operation and battery care, which we didn't talk about battery care for that. I'm sure a lot of parents want to know about that. Next week is Fire Prevention Safety Week.
Right.
So shout out to the Summit Fire Department. So when it comes to these batteries, what can you tell us about
Well,
that?
for one, you want a UL certified battery.
Okay.
And off the top of my head, the number, the UL 2896, something like that.
Okay.
But it is important to get a reputable battery. And I say reputable, not aftermarket.
Aftermarket batteries, right?
Chargers.
Follow the safety guidelines
Exactly.
in regards
You want
to the
manual.
manufacturer.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you go into a bike shop, you're going to get a certified battery.
Right.
Batteries are heavy, and they can be dropped, if you're not careful, and it could damage the bike, damage the battery, and now the charger
battery.
could be compromised. So E-bike fires are really bad.
Mhm.
They're really hard to put out. And so there are, if you don't want to ever leave a battery on a charger unattended.
Mhm.
So you don't want to put it in a place where there's a lot of people in egress where it's going to, if it did explode,
Right.
that it's going to block people from getting out.
Mhm.
So it's the kind of thing where you want to have it somewhere kind of safe where it's not in the way, but you keep an eye on it. And then when you're done charging it, you're around and you can monitor it.
Right.
So you don't want to, I'm looking at the floor like I'm looking at my battery on the charger. So that's really important. But the care for the battery. So
Yes.
again, dropping it, it's cracked. It's made up of a whole bunch of little cells.
Mhm.
And you get this thermal runaway where one kind of gets the other one going.
Right.
And they can be really, really bad fires. But if you're safe, just more reason to be careful and take care of your equipment and monitor your kids' use of the bike, because if you crash the bike, that could be damaging the battery.
Right.
And so it would make charging even more tricky.
Right. What about helmets for adults? Which, by the way, I just want to say, I'm sure Chief Evers with our fire department would be very proud we just had that conversation. But what about helmets for adults?
I mean, helmets are, everybody riding a bike, if you're going to crash, you want to have a helmet on.
Mhm.
I'm a certified instructor, and I almost always wear a helmet. I say almost always because I say I don't want to be the helmet Nazi.
Right.
When I'm riding on paths and I'm going very slow, sometimes I don't ride a helmet.
Right.
I wear a helmet. But anytime I'm going any faster, if I'm doing my mountain bike, it's like, I'm definitely wearing a helmet.
Right.
And, again, I was told a long time ago, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Correct.
And I had a bike crash on one of my long trips where that helmet, I had two thoughts go through my mind as I crashed. It was like, wow, the helmet really worked. My head hit the pavement real
Right.
hard.
Yeah.
So it makes a difference. Parents should wear it,
Mhm.
especially if you're trying to lead by example.
Yeah. So, and once again, if we reference this quick guide that we posted recently, as far as class 3 and above, helmets are required for all ages. Now, for class 1, class 2, for adults, no, they're not required.
And we
But
should say-
under 17, yeah,
Right,
under 17,
yeah.
yes, they are required for
Yeah.
kids. Is it legal to have a 60 volt 40 H?
Well, we didn't talk about electric motor size. So
Okay.
there's the watts, and there is a max 750 watts. And as far as the battery, I can't speak to the battery capacity, but there is part of the whole classification system is to have a battery that does not go beyond the 750.
Right.
And I want to get my unit right here. It's not
Yeah,
necessary.
750 watts. I was actually looking that up as well.
Okay.
Over 750 watts.
Yeah, let's see.
And I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, over 50 cc's.
50 cc's for a low-speed
Did
motorcycle.
my research. So, I'm not sure exactly what that part means, but I mean, could e-bike training be included in PE health classes in school? Funny that should be mentioned, because like I said, I had a good conversation with Principal Grimaldi here at the Summit High School, and that's one of the things she was referring to, like having doing some sort of training within the PE classes, and potentially even like the driver's education classes, because those are typically taught to sophomores, and that's pretty much prime age
Right.
range that we're looking at with some of these e-bike I guess violations or incidents that are occurring. So, are there any other?
It would be ideal. It would be ideal to get it in the schools.
Yeah,
captive
and-
audience in a formal setting.
Yeah,
Formal setting.
and here with some police department, we realize that there's an issue. So this is nothing brand new to us. I've been doing research for months about this. How long have you and I been talking right now? For a while. So unfortunately now it seems like it's becoming more and more of a hot topic, and something needs to be done. Something needs to be addressed. Parents definitely communicate with your kids. We're doing our part to get out there and enforce. We're doing our part to go out there and educate the kids, and talk to and I'm in communication with the PTO, putting like all this information, trying to put all this information out there, We like I said, one e-bike fatality is too much. So, Lacey died. So, are there any other questions? So, for anybody who wasn't able to join us this evening, this is, from my understanding, is going to live on YouTube. This video is going to live on YouTube so anybody can log in. So, if you had any previous engagements or you couldn't make it this evening, we're sorry, but this video will be available. I definitely want to thank Paul for being here. Paul's a wealth of knowledge. Anybody have any future questions that maybe you weren't able to ask, feel free to email the Community Policing Unit, CPU, at spdnj.org. I'll do my best to answer any of those questions or refer them to somebody who's way more knowledgeable than I am, certainly Paul.
And I'll be doing additional sessions similar to this, and I'll be posting it on our njbwc.org website. So we had the webinar yesterday, and we'll be doing more parent-oriented sessions that are similar to educate the parents, give them the heads up about the training, and give them some ideas about monitoring their teen e-bike rider.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, that's it. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this Facebook Live session. Maybe we'll do some more in the future, but otherwise, stay safe out there, and that's it. Have a great night.